A very good morning to you all and a warm welcome to this edition of Views, People and News 0933 KFM. It is 6 minutes past 9 o'clock. My name is Judith Atim and I'm so glad that you're all with us, and it is indeed also a great pleasure for me to be hosting once again the PSST, that's the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, none other than Mr. Ramadan Gobi. Mr. Gobi, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Judith, and always a pleasure to be here.
We last had you at the tail end of last year, and a lot has certainly changed in such a short time that we will be looking into very shortly. Of course, today we are digging into government's strategy for the financial year 2025-2026 budget plan. We shall be scrutinizing this a little more. But just very quickly, Mr. Gobi, we're going through the highlights, the key events of the big stories of the week, and then you'll just pick one or two or as many as you can since you're alone in the studio. You have all these microphones, so you just pick whatever you want to comment on, and then you comment on, and then we will get into our discussion. So just very quickly, the biggest story for the week so far has been the Omeme limited handover of the electricity distribution powers back to the government's entity, UEDCL, that's the Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited. That's after 2 decades of managing the distribution network. Omeme was paid $118 million, which is approximately 430 billion shillings, although Omeme had put the buyout amount at 234 million. The March 31st occasion to transfer the assets was held on Monday at Lugogo in Kampala, and government effectively took over operations on 1st of April. Omeme, which took over in 2005 with 250,000 customers connected onto the national grid, handed to the government more than 2.37 million clients. Still on Monday, the opposition presented its alternative 55.7 trillion shilling budget aimed at combating corruption and addressing key national reform areas. Led by the leader of the opposition in Parliament, Joel Senyonyi, the proposed budget reduces the government's 71.9 trillion shilling proposal for the financial year 2025-2026 by a substantial 16.5 trillion shillings. And they're positioning anti-corruption measures as the cornerstone of effective service delivery. And the alternative budget focuses on investing in key sectors like healthcare, education and agriculture. It was unveiled under the theme Combating Corruption, the sure way to effective delivery, and it outlines concrete strategies to reclaim public resources that have been diverted through corrupt practices. The opposition leaders dismissed the government's budget as both unrealistic and unattainable following its presentation on March 27th. We shall be hearing more from Mr. Gobi whether he thinks indeed, or what makes the government budget realistic and attainable. The government tabled budget estimates worth 71.9 trillion before Parliament, marking a significant increase from earlier projections. The Ministry of Finance retained the same budget theme, which is full monetization of the Ugandan economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, digital transformation and market access. And this morning here on VPN, we have the pleasure to host the PSST, like I said, and we'll be digging into this issue in just a bit. But out of economic issues, yesterday the High Court in Kampala finally granted Dr. Kiza Besige's lawyer Aaron Kiza bail. Criminal Division Judge Michael Elubu ordered Kiza to pay a 20 million shilling cash amount and for each of his 3 sureties to execute a non-cash bond of 50 million shillings. The sureties include his wife Sylvia Tumwebaze, his cousin Dr. Kabumba Businje, and his friend human rights lawyer Prima Kwangala. Kiza was also directed to deposit his passport with a court registrar and seek prior permission should he wish to travel outside Uganda. And from across the region, African Union mediators arrived in South Sudan's capital, Juba, on Wednesday for talks aimed at averting a new civil war after First Vice President Riek Machar was placed under house arrest last week. President Salva Kiir's government has accused Machar of trying to stir up a new rebellion. The AU delegation's flight arrived at Juba's airport on Wednesday, comprising a council of the wise members, which includes former Burundian President Domitien Ndayizeye and former Kenyan judge Efie Owor. The AU's Peace and Security Council has called for Machar's immediate and unconditional release, saying that recent developments threaten the 2018 peace deal that ended the 2013-2018 civil war. But also on Thursday, President Yoweri Museveni jetted into Juba for a 2-day state visit where he held meetings with his counterpart Salva Kiir and other AU officials, although no conclusive deal was reached to ease the tensions. And across the globe, from the international scene, the U.S. customs agents have begun collecting President Donald Trump's unilateral 10% tariff on all imports from many countries, with higher levies on goods from 57 larger trading partners due to start next week. Trump's Wednesday tariff announcement shook global stock markets to their core, wiping out $5 trillion in stock market value for Standard & Poor's 500 companies by Friday's close, a record 2-day decline. Prices for oil and commodities plunged, while investors fled to the safety of government bonds. And I'm just going to take you through some African countries affected by this. Lesotho, 50% tariff. Madagascar, 47%. Mauritius, 40%. Uganda, 10%. Tanzania, 10%. Kenya, 10%. Cameroon, 12%. So basically, the highest tariffs for African countries will be 50%. That's for Lesotho. And the lowest will be 10%, and most of the countries in the 10%, having the 10% tariff are within East Africa, and well, Ghana as well from the West. Very interesting developments. But also the government and its joint venture partner, the Dubai-based Alpha MBM Investments LLC, have signed a $4 billion implementation agreement for the oil refinery project. We shall also be talking briefly about this. The agreement gives the green light for the government and its joint venture partner to start the design, the construction and operation of the 60,000 barrel a day oil refinery in Chikube district in Midwestern Uganda. That's the Lake Albert Basin. It was signed at State House in Entebbe on Sunday at a function convened by President Yoweri Museveni. Uganda's first oil is expected by the end of 2026. So, Mr. Gobi, welcome once again. Very quickly, there are so many things that are also preempting our discussion, our topic for today. But I'll just like you to just respond to any of these issues, and then we will dive in by, after your response, I want us to see the achievements of the government in this current financial year. Where it has our money been deployed? What areas and what results have we seen, or what results are we seeing that an average Ugandan can also relate to easily? The microphone is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Judith. And once again, good morning to the KFM listeners. This is my home. I've always been at KFM before and after I joined the government. Mm-hmm. Yes, the issues you've highlighted are quite many. As you could predict, I will concentrate on where
the economic issues, investments, where you have strength.
Where, say a number of things, and that's economics.
Yeah.
First, on the issues concerning the Umeme buyout, we've succeeded in implementing the government decision to let Umeme concession die out naturally. Mm-hmm. I've had some people, including, I think, KFM, saying government has pushed out Umeme. No, government did not push out Umeme. Government took a decision not to renew the concession. And as the government has continuously put it, the intention was to reduce on the cost of electricity. The cost of electricity has been relatively high, partly because of the high return on investment by the private investors in the power value chain, particularly in the distribution. Of course, the reduction may not be overnight, but we expect, therefore, Ugandans to monitor that bit of the cost reducing. because our main intention is to give electricity to especially wealth creators at 5 cents per kilowatt hour, which will be the most competitive rate, I think, in the region and many parts of the world. The debate was, will government be able to pay off Umeme? And how much is government supposed to pay? Now, at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, our main role is to mobilize resources when they are needed by government. And we were given this demand by government some time back. At that time, it was only Umeme's demand of about $234 million, as you've put it. But as you know, we were supposed to pay for what is remaining of Umeme's asset investment. What they have been investing, they have been recouping money, but there were definitely some levels of investment which they had not yet recouped. And that's what they were required to mobilize and pay. So looking at the auditors, the government auditors, the Auditor General of Government, as well as ERA, the Electricity Regulatory Authority. They are the ones who know these numbers. And they did their job, and they gave us the final number almost on the final day, the day before the expiry of the concession. For us, we had moved proactively to Parliament and sought for the tentative number of $190 million, which the Auditor General of Government had given us. And Parliament had authorized us to go and mobilize that money and pay Umeme. But they put a condition that if the Auditor General comes up with a number, then we should be able to reduce and pay that number. And indeed, a few days later, after Parliament had approved the payment, then the Auditor General brought out that $118 million as the final number, and that's the figure we've paid. We managed to pay in record time. I'm very happy with my team at the ministry, because it was quite a very tight schedule, and the uncertainty on the numbers, with a lot of speculations, this and that, but we were steadfast. We knew what we were doing. We were mobilizing the money from a local bank, and some people, I think, were monitoring also that, how we were progressing with the negotiations. Are we going to get the money on time? I think everybody was surprised that we paid, even when we had not yet finalized those negotiations, because we are state. We know.
So, but you borrowed from Stanbic Bank at what what's the interest that is going to accrue over this borrowed amount? We
are finalizing the negotiations with the Stanbic. We are getting that money at a very competitive rate.
Of what percentage?
I've not come with these numbers, the final numbers off cuff, but I think we're in the region of 6% interest. And it's a relatively...
and what's the payment period, the payback?
5 years.
5 years.
5 years. And you know, electricity is a very lucrative area. You right now we are using electricity.
We are, certainly. And
we are paying. KFM is paying for this voice to get out. So whom are they paying to?
So
UEDCL. And UEDCL will be able
to give it back to
return this money in a record time. Yes.
So speaking about the mobilization of money, I think everyone in government knew, including your ministry, that this concession would end at this day.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think the concern most Ugandans have had is, why did government have to go and borrow if it actually knew that there was a deadline for this? Couldn't they have mobilized the resources? We are told there was supposed to be an escrow account where this money should have been kept about 2 years or so before Umeme exited. So what were the issues that pushed the government to actually go and incur this extra cost of borrowing, and now we have to pay a 6% interest for over a 5-year period? Was there an issue of planning? Or was there?
By the
what
way,
exactly was the challenge?
As Ugandans and human beings, we need all to start thinking like economists.
Mm-hmm.
Putting money in a certain escrow account for 2 years is much more expensive than getting money on the 31st of March, and I pay, and on at a cost of 6% in 5 years. We can run the numbers, and I show you that it is much cheaper. I saw a lot of debates, and but I, I'm so busy I couldn't respond to each and everything. There were a lot of arguments by a number of people. One I even heard that somebody was saying we should have even gotten this money from the domestic market, should have issued a bond. Now that some of the bonds we have been issuing lately have been oversubscribed, the domestic money is much more expensive than the money we are getting. It was actually going to cost Ugandans a total of about 300 billion if we had got it from the domestic market. We are going to get it at a much cheaper rate. Anyway, to answer your question precisely, the issue of the of this buyout, the expiry on the 31st, has been a marathon. There have been a number of many parts moving. First was the government decision itself. Umeme tried to negotiate to stay, to have the concession renewed. And that took some time. At a very highest level of government, at the cabinet, they had this conversation. And the decision was taken that, no, this concession shouldn't be renewed. And then now a number of parts had to start moving in terms of how much are we likely to pay Umeme. Even up to today, there are still some numbers. They have to, for example, establish also how much was Umeme owing the other UETCL, particularly UETCL, and how is that to be settled and so on. So it wasn't a straightforward thing for a person like me and my team who was seated at the other end, the tail end of just mobilizing money, how much that figure we're asking, until the Auditor General gave us a tentative number, a preliminary number of 190, and that's when we started the process of mobilizing. But I can't get money when I'm borrowing for projects to be implemented, to construct the roads in Kampala, to do, and I get $200+ million and I put them in an escrow account. It is good common sense, but not good economics, and I would want really people to understand that.
Okay. Thank you. So is that the only thing you're responding to, or the others shall come in as we talk?
Which others?
The other economic issues that I had also, you've just addressed Umeme, the oil refinery issue.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we can, but we're already in the conversation anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
The Uganda has really got a number of things moving in the right direction lately. And this last month was a fantastic month for us who are in trying to monitor these things and trying to put them together. We finally managed to sign the agreement to start building the refinery so that Uganda can also have refined petroleum products. This project has been one of the key projects we've been pursuing, apart from the standard gauge Lere and the ECOP, the pipeline for exporting the crude. Thanks to our president and his insistence on having part of our oil resources refined here, we managed to get good friends from UAE, partners, I should say. We're very good partners with whom we are saying we can go into equity investment. Equity means each of us will contribute capital They will contribute 60%, we contribute 40%, and we build this refinery. Then that means the revenue from the refinery, we shall share it according to the shareholding. It's a very good development because our petrochemical industry is going now to see the light of day, built around this refinery in Bunyoro here, in Uganda. Those who have seen countries transforming, countries that have fuel transform when they build the petrochemical industry. Countries with the iron ore, they transform when they build the steel plants and so on. So we are really delighted that we've managed to reach this milestone. Next month of May, we shall start to see the activities roll out in building this refinery. As government, we are ready. We had already budgeted for it. And we are starting with the preliminary activities, like we are doing with the SGR, that we have already released the money to start. So these are big projects which are very good for the transformation of Uganda, and we hope that we shall be able to implement them in a timely manner. This refinery is expected to be delivered in 4 or 5 years. Alongside the SGR, which is also around the same timeline. So the future seems to be very bright. But also in the same month, we managed to close revenue, the financing of the ECOP, the senior debt. A number of financial institutions came on board and they signed off the agreement to give us money, to give the ECOP project money so that it can move according to the timelines that we have set. So, Judith, I really feel that next year, I even tweeted, I told Ugandans, please,
we are at takeoff.
Your responsibility now.
At what point are we at takeoff now?
Just stay alive. Don't allow to die. Don't die, please.
I saw that.
Because you will be able to share in this
Sorry
future.
to cut you. Sorry to interject. When you see this SGR thing, it sounds like a broken record. Every year we are talking SGR, and it's just, when we look at what our neighbors are doing with their standard gauge railway projects, it's phenomenal. And we've been singing the same song. And sometimes it becomes a joke when I see this Kenya versus Uganda kind of contest on Twitter. It's quite embarrassing when people are putting their trains against ours, and you wonder what exactly.
Yeah, we did.
And every time we hear from governments, people like you and your colleagues, it is always this rosy picture of, it's actually here, we are almost there. But it never basically, we don't seem to move from just beyond, we don't go beyond the rhetoric.
Yeah, we delayed, but I want to tell you that we finally gotten there. Now we are starting. The contractor is mobilizing, is on the ground, and we have released the first money for the first time for the SGR. But also you need to be careful, Judith. Uganda is also leading in the region in terms of fiscal responsibility. We don't borrow money at any cost in Uganda. We are very, very mindful of the money we are getting. And as a result of that, sometimes I can understand the pain Ugandans feel. When they compare themselves, they say, look what our neighbors, Kenya.
Tanzania.
Countries are not built on Twitter or on X. Countries are built in a very well analyzed fiscal rules and fiscal responsibility. Because if we were just in a beauty contest, perhaps we would be having certain challenges today. Because the same Ugandans are saying, be careful with the debt. And indeed, we are very careful with the debt. And we had to first schedule and sequence these projects in such a way that they can be delivered at cost, effective way. Because we wouldn't want to borrow money at double digits to build a railway. We had to look for good partners. We had the partners in the past. They let us down. They delayed. We have gotten new partners, and we are moving now. As I've assured you, we are mobilizing to start the construction, and we've provided the first money to carry out the preliminary activities.
It's the Turkish contractors handling them, but then these people they met the president, I think, in Toronto or something like that last year. No. They met in Toronto last year. They were here in Uganda, but it is now. It's almost a year or more. They're still just mobilizing resources.
It's just a few months of mobilization. What they call mobilization in big projects. Once you have signed the agreement, they have that period when you finalize now the various studies. You're not building a complex project like a standard gauge rail requires clear ESG, environmental, social, and governance frameworks to be in place. This SGR is being financed by topmost financial institutions in the world. Our chief mobilizer of the money is Citibank of the US to mobilize the 2.7 billion euros, which we are going to use. It has brought on board a number of export finance agencies, and these have come from countries from the Scandinavia and all over the world. They require you to have particular frameworks in place so that they are pretty sure that you are not going to damage the environment, you are not going to affect people's rights, and so on and so forth. So those nuances have to be in place, and we've been working on them. We are now at the tail end of them. But now the company YAPI and its subcontractors are already on the ground. They have started getting their machinery into the country to start the construction. You know, just you forget that your country is a landlocked country, unlike others you want to sometimes to compare with, where they just go and sail and they have the sea, and then they dock and they get off machinery and they start. For you, it is a whole operation to get this heavy machinery move, and then they come 900 miles into the hinterland and set up. So sometimes I want to really, and I don't blame Uganda because they don't, of course, sometimes they're not in the know of what is happening, and they have had stories for a long time, especially now for SGR. It has been in our talks for a long time. It's like oil. We used to say oil is coming, oil is coming, oil is coming. And also in Uganda, I think we tend sometimes to politicize projects, very key economic development projects. I see both sides of the political aisle. They are trying to politicize them. One is criticizing, another one is using it to pop up support. But I wanted to really come and tell you that finally a number of these projects are going to see the light of day in the way we've seen some of them getting underway.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's time for us to take a break, and then when we return, we now delve into the discussion, which is what is our government strategy for the financial year 2025-2026. But also we want to look back at the current financial year. Where are the hits? Where are the misses? This is VP. Welcome back from the break. It's 9:39 a.m. and this is VPN, Views, People and News, and I am pleased to have the PSST, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, with us to take us through the government strategy for the coming financial year 2025-2026, looking at the budget that the government is proposing so far. But also, if you're listening, we're going to open the phone lines later. That's at 10:15 a.m. So we'll ask you to get your questions ready, and then when we open the lines, you'll actually just send them. Because the last time we had Mr. Gobi here, there were so many questions, but we didn't have enough time. But we want to give you as much time as you can. So, Mr. Gobi, now we're now getting into the heart of our conversation this morning. Before we go into the strategy for the coming financial year's budget, what are the hits, and where are the misses for the current financial year? Where have you put our money?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We are now 3 quarters into the financial year 2023, 2024-25. And this coming week, I will speak to the media about the last quarter release for the year. We have been able to really finance effectively most of the areas we had in our budget strategy. I want to tell you, Judith, and fellow Ugandans, that we are now focused and very deliberate and intentional in having what we call the ATMs, agro-industry, tourism, mining, and science, technology, and innovation as the key drivers of our economy. There are 4 of them. Agriculture, but along the value chain, industrializing agriculture, adding value to our raw materials. That's why we are getting a lot of partners coming into the country, but also Ugandans themselves being supported to add value to the crops and the animal products and the fish and so on, which we produce here. Then 2, tourism. How do we get the tourism sector to grow? Then 3, the mining sector. We want to industrialize our mining sector, getting all our minerals, and we add value on them. These refineries you hear, not forgetting that we had already supported partners to invest in gold refineries, in adding value to tin, in adding value to phosphates. Even yesterday, I was signing off letters to support investors who are going to open up a $200 million clinker factory in Karamoja. We are on STI. Now, that is our main focus, those 4. Then the enablers. The enablers are the infrastructure. We have about 9 enablers that we are prioritizing. First is the railway, we have already talked about. 2 are the roads and bridges. 3 is electricity. 4 is irrigation. We want to stabilize agriculture. 5 is capitalization of UDB, so that it can provide money which is patient and low cost, relatively lower cost, to our people who are investing in those 4 areas, the ATMs I've talked about. Then number 6 is a human capital development, education, health, and water for human consumption. Number 7 is environmental protection. We are saying we can't develop Uganda when at the cost of our environment. We need to get these wetlands recovered, the forest cover also protected.
Restored.
Then integration, economic integration for market access. So we are doing everything possible to support our farms to access the market in the ESC, in Africa Continental Free Trade Area, but also globally. And then number 9 is the international relations. Now, that's why we are not entering into these trade wars. Uganda want to stay steadfast, to stay open and competitive. Now, we have, as a result of that, worked to ensure that the budget which we are having today and the budget next year are aligned to that strategy. So when you ask how are we performing now as far as the budget is concerned, we have already released the money. 75% of the budget is with the entities which are implementing this, and the 25% I'm releasing it this coming week. We have already written to the institutions, communicating the expenditure limits, and I will tell the country how much have we released to each entity.
Okay. Are you able to also let us know if the 75% has been fully absorbed, or that is pending reports from the different MPAs?
I can only tell you on half year.
Okay.
About the 50%, because those reports have come in. They actually before Parliament. We already communicated the half year, which we call a semi-annual budget performance report. It has been issued to Parliament, and it's now public knowledge on where have we spent the money up to December, which Ugandans gave us to develop the country. One thing is, this money is really going in those areas which are going to aim at the general good of the people of Uganda, in supporting education, health care, water, then the parish development model, ensuring that Ugandans who are outside the money economy can get some support and join. You have been seeing these things in action. I shouldn't really be mentioning numbers. We need on the ground results. When you talk of PDM, when you talk of education, when you talk of health care, when you talk of all sorts of things, we tend sometimes to take for granted these things. You are like, but where are they? You can only see where they are when they disappear. If government, for example, withdrew just for a month, 1 month, I want to tell you, Judith, when I delay, for example, to release the government money to the entities by just a couple of days, everybody tends, I see people on radio, in TV, where's the money? What's happening? Things are not moving. But when they are there, we tend to take them for granted.
Okay, so
for good reason.
One of the enablers you've talked about is international relations, and you've emphasized the need for Uganda not to go into trade wars. But we also see how heavily involved our defense, specifically the military, is in regional matters. In South Sudan, in the DRC, Somalia, we still have a presence there. And there are, when you speak to our policy analysts and our economists, there is fear that this war, what is the word? This venturing we are doing in the neighborhood is actually heavy. Also, it's a heavy investment, and it's certainly going to cost us a lot of money as a country. How do we strike the balance between? Of course, our involvement in these countries is also for strategic reasons. That's understandable, trade, and also ensuring there is peace in our neighboring countries. But how much does it? Because the concern, I think, that also the opposition has raised is the unclassified expenditure that is actually going, that government keeps presenting, and there are fears that this classified expenditures are also probably conduits for maybe corruption and so on. But how do we strike a balance between ensuring, yes, we still involve and engage militarily for strategic interests or reasons, but at the same time, we do not go into depleting our economic resources? I
was forgetting one thing. Security and stability of Uganda is the number one enabler to our economy. So please put it in its right place. Number one enabler. And there is one thing which we can never compromise on as Ugandans. And I would like to invite every Ugandan who's really sensible out there to understand you will do nothing if this region is in turmoil. When there is war, whether it is in South Sudan or in DR Congo or is in Somalia or is in another place, Central African Republic, Uganda is not likely to perform well. And Uganda has been a leader in ensuring that we are stable as a region. Now it is being helped by Kenya, but you know our president has historically been a leader in ensuring that our neighbors are at peace. Not necessarily because he's a good Samaritan to the neighbors, but strategically. That word you are talking about, strategic security. Uganda cannot be an island of peace when the entire region is unstable. You will get the spillover effects. You remember here we used to have terrorists attacking us from Somalia, from DRC, the ADF and so on. And what used to happen here? Nothing can go on. Sometimes I hear people that, you're wasting money in security when health and education does not have enough money. You know, IMF and World Bank brought that kind of thinking some years back. They said, move money from security to education. And indeed, Uganda reduced the expenditure on security and upped the expenditure on education. We built technical schools, we built primary schools, secondary schools, and so on. What happened? ADF went and attacked one of the schools called Chitswamba and burnt alive over 80 children. And the children now, with their parents, were in fear. They abandoned the school in that region. That's when now sense came to all of those who thought that we must trade off security in order to have good education, to realize that security is a fundamental requirement if you want to have good education and good health care and so on. And that's what's being done. So when you see Uganda venturing into stabilizing the region, it's actually for our good. Even I remember one time someone was, again, these powerful leaders in the parliament, and was saying that now we are wasting money on building roads to Congo, to South Sudan. Now, these are the biggest markets for us. Now, in DR Congo, we are earning over $800 million a year in exports. It's our number one export destination. In South Sudan, where the president returned yesterday, is our number 2 export destination. Our exports go to Congo and then to South Sudan in that order, then to Kenya, and then to other places, Rwanda and so on. So it's in our interest, even economically and socially, to stabilize these places, to ensure that they don't, the insecurity does not spill over and create economic stagnation here.
Now, I want us to go bit by bit to unpack ATMs, and 75% of the budget, you say, has already been deployed to these vehicles, which are supposed to ensure that we have a fully monetized Ugandan economy. What have we put in agro-industrialization, and what have we realized so far? What have we invested in tourism, and what are the returns? Our mineral sector, what does it look like? And also science, technology, and innovation. If you could just unpack those for us.
Yes. We are upping the investment in those 4 areas. This running financial year, we have a budget of about 3.2 trillion shillings in the ATMs. Next year, we have increased it to 4.1 trillion shillings. And the bulk of this money is an agro-industrialization, where over 1.7 trillion has been invested.
Does that cover PDM as well?
No.
Okay.
PDM
is a different thing.
And yet, actually, the money of PDM is also going into agriculture, because we started by supporting those households that are going to engage in agriculture, the 1 trillion. So you are right. It can also be brought on board, and it will be upwards of 5 trillion. And now we have also singled out tourism as an area where we want to get more serious, particularly on branding and marketing Uganda. Next financial year, you're going to see, and you'll be the one, Judith, to give me feedback on whether you are seeing these things. Uganda more in international media, our tourism potential we have, international media, in the local and regional media, but also in the form of this promotion is within the country. We are going to rebrand that airport, our international airport of Entebbe. We are going to brand all our key roads.
So the rebranding, you're talking about the coming financial year?
Yes.
But for now, I want us to look at this financial year that's ending.
That report will come in because you can't account for what you are still doing. It's like you account for the house you are building. It will come in as these days when we are, for example, putting together the budget. We account.
So Stephen is showing me signs. He's doing this, saying you should actually be able to assess. Like if you're building a house, you've done the foundation. You guys say we've done the foundation. We've reached the wall plate. We are now at roofing and so on. So at least we should be able to see something.
I've told you there is a report which is public knowledge. I'm not operational. That as a Secretary of Treasury, you are there to see what is happening in tourism, what's happening in education. My job is global. I am not an operational person. I'm strategic on getting the resources and the funding this. But what I'm saying, when we are finally presenting the national budget for next year, we are going to account for each and every coin that we spent during the financial year, at least for the 3 quarters of the year, which will be in the various areas. And this is how we do it actually. We show you in the ATMs, this is what we have done. In the enablers in education, these are the schools we have built. And even the buildings are put there. You get it? In the pictures, in the videos. And if we are building a road, we show you the progress we are making on the road. Like Kampala here, in Kampala. You see, I told you some time back that please be ready. Kampala is going to be a beehive, a construction site. Now you can see it is impossible. Everywhere you turn, there is a construction going on because we want to revamp these roads in Kampala. And now I can't be the Secretary of Treasury to know this road, the Port Bell is at this percentage, the other one is at the operational people who will come from the various MDS, and they tell you on where we are. But what for me, I've told you at a global level, at our level, as the Minister of Finance, we have released the money which should be equivalent to over 3 quarters of the budget released, and we are going to release the last quarter of the budget.
All right. Minerals sector, you're also not, but just you can talk about the investments from the technical side.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the minerals, we are mainly now investing in the mining company. First, we want to finalize the quantification of these minerals across Uganda. Because when you ask today, you talk about iron ore, that Uganda has the best iron ore and a lot of it. How many million tons of iron ore do we have? Usually they will tell you approximately 300 million tons of iron ore have been confirmed. And we are going to get these now quantities together so that we can attract partners when we have the numbers in each and every area. The Ministry of Energy has been doing a good job of survey, the geological surveys of these minerals, but also they have embarked on quantification. We are supporting them more to quantify these minerals. The same way we did for oil. Why we attracted these Total and other big companies, Sinopec and so on, into our oil industry, because we quantified the oil reserves we have. They calculated, and they saw that the numbers would work out, the economically viable. So we want to do the same for the minerals, and we have now given the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development money to finalize the quantification. But also we have capitalized our company, which is going to partner with our friends who are coming in from all over the world and we develop this sector. We feel that this is an area also which we had underinvested in, the minerals, and we want it to now attract bigger monies.
All right.
On STI, science, technology, and innovation, they are key areas which we are working with. Kira Motors, as you know, has now finished the factory. Uganda is now a producer of vehicles. If you
not
told
an
this,
assembler.
Not an assembler. No, we are manufacturing vehicles. We are manufacturers of vehicles, not bringing parts and then you assemble. Younger people are putting together, of course there are few things which everywhere in the world which you must import
from elsewhere and
yes.
assemble.
For example, when you hear that Airbus is producing planes or Boeing,
it doesn't produce.
There are about
everything. Yeah,
58 countries that are contributing to that that plane. But the core activities and the parts are produced by that country which is manufacturing. And in this case, Kira Motors, they are really doing a great job. And very soon Ugandans will be very proud of this. We have also invested in anti-tick vaccination. These vaccines, we want to, these animals even get blind because of poor quality acaricides and so on. Our scientists here in Inaro have carried out a research and invented a vaccine, an anti-tick vaccine, which is going to kill ticks by just vaccinating the animal. Even if a tick bites the animal, it will not get the fever.
So there's just a very...
I was still telling you a number of things we are doing.
No, about mining.
Okay.
There's just something small about mining. Can you say something about support for artisanal gold miners?
Yeah.
Are there any deliberate efforts to support them? For instance, to move away from the use of dangerous chemicals like mercury and so on, issues of refining, purification technology and so on.
I've always told the people that man responds to two things, incentive or danger. Now, we realized that danger alone cannot work by telling these artisanal miners that get off these dangerous substances being used to process gold, like mercury. Now we are bringing in the central bank. Bank of Uganda is going to purchase gold to boost our gold reserves.
Okay. Starting
this financial year. We are in advanced stages of doing so. But for you to sell gold to the central bank, this gold must be mined with the clear ESG frameworks, under clear ESG, that is environmental, social, and governance frameworks. And with that, we are incentivizing these miners, artisanals, to invest in better technologies because they have a good market. But this market, to access it, you must mine your gold and it is traced to you, and you have used good practices which respect the environment, the well-being of the people, those women who have been really subjected to mercury, exposed to mercury. Now that incentive will make these artisanals reduce on using those dangerous substances and actually abandon them for them to access this good market. But also the Ministry of Energy has been facilitated to organize this industry of artisanal gold miners, among others. It's a two-way on how to use the danger, that is regulation and so on, but also how to use the incentives. The central bank coming in to purchase the gold direct from the miners. It's going to go direct to those miners once you are well organized, you have put in place good practices of processing, mining and processing the gold, then you access the market for this gold.
Okay. Stephen is telling me that it's time for us to take a break. But when we return, Mr. Gobi, I want us to discuss a number of issues. First of all, there's good news, something that you would probably be happy about. I was reading somewhere that the Uganda shilling is 6.1% stronger now, making it Africa's best performing currency. I think we need to talk about the implications. I know they are both good and perhaps not very good sides, especially for our exporters. What does this mean? But also the issue of the tariffs that we are now seeing the U.S. imposing, the 10% tariff. What does this mean? Of course, if the shilling is also now very, very strong, where does that put our export sector, our cocoa, our gold, and our coffee? And also, we would also like to hear your thoughts about the status of the agencies that were merged under RAPEX. Government says they are creating efficiency and saving money, but what exactly is going on? We've seen some people going on strike because they've not been paid. Certainly, there are underlying issues. There's a lot of probably confusion or miscommunication or something like that, but we would like you to give some clarity to these issues. Welcome back from the break. It's 10 minutes past 10 o'clock. At 10:15, we are actually opening that for the phone lines for you. I'll be sharing the numbers and you can give us a call. But just very quickly, Mr. Gobi, the issues that I raised, the issue of RAPEX, what exactly is happening. But before maybe you go there, the stronger shilling now. Why is this good news? And also, where are we going to run into challenges as a country?
First of all, having our currency stable, in the midst of all of these headwinds which have been blowing across the world since COVID, is a testimony to the fact that Ugandan economy is well managed. As you remember, Judith, a couple of years ago, there was a big debate in Kampala here on a number of issues. People were saying, number one, Uganda, you are really terrible, you government of ours. Look what other countries, what they are doing. They have controlled fuel prices, they are giving people subsidies, they are doing this and that. We said, no, that's not good economics. Those countries are likely to get into trouble. And we stayed our course. We let the currency go, the whatever direction it wanted to go, so that we can get a good equilibrium.
All right.
And here we are today. The currency is stable because the Central Bank of Uganda, Bank of Uganda, and ourselves at the Ministry of Finance, we are well coordinated on both monetary and fiscal policies in terms of managing these risks. And it's not by chance. Our capital account is fully liberalized. We are among a few countries with a fully liberalized capital account. If you are traveling around the world, you will know that in certain places, when you go to change your money, they ask you very many funny questions. They don't also allow people to move money out. And once you stop people from moving their money out, they will not bring it because they know
the restrictions
that when they are leaving, you will not allow them to leave with their money. In Uganda, we are fully liberalized. Number two, we also have a very deliberate policy on export promotion in Uganda. We promote exports. We don't tax exporters. Sometimes to the chagrin of some politicians who say, why are you exempting this one and the other one and the other one? We support, also our industrial policy is clear. We support people who are producing value-added products, particularly those who are going to export also. We give them tax holiday and other incentives. We are giving them free land. We are giving them subsidized power rates and so on. And these are now the results which have come back in the form of strengthened currency. And moving forward, we would want to stay that course. The monetary policy people at the central bank, Michael Atingego, the governor, and his team, they're also doing a fantastic job on that side of managing our interest rates so that the inflation does not go out of hand, which inflation affects the value of the currency. But now you're asking a fundamental question. What are the implications of this strong shilling? Of course, currencies work in such a way that stability is the key. Make your currency stable, such that it is predictable. That when somebody is going to Japan or to UAE or to China or to Turkey to import a product, the cost will not change as these goods are at sea or when he's flying back. It will make losses. Stability is key. But as you do that, avoid also over-appreciating the currency, overvaluing it, because it will affect your exports. Our exports become expensive when our currency over-strengthens. Because remember, foreigners come with the dollar to buy coffee. I will use the example of coffee. If our coffee is priced at 4,000 shillings, I'm just giving an example, 4,000 shillings a kilo, and the dollar rate is 4,000, that means someone will use $1 to buy a kilo of coffee. Now, if the exchange rate now becomes 3,000, that means someone can no longer buy a kilo of coffee. So he has to add on
a few cents
to accommodate the 1,000 shillings which he has lost.
Yeah.
So it will become like $1.2 a kilo. So in effect, Ugandan coffee has become expensive, and yet you, the farmer, you are still receiving 4,000 shillings. That's why, therefore, the central bank is always on the watch to ensure that the shilling does not over-appreciate, but also does not depreciate rapidly. Because when it depreciates, like many countries are now facing this depreciation pressure, they will make also imports expensive. Remember, we are a net importer of things like fuel, of the intermediate goods which we are using to produce our manufactured products. Even the oil industry, we are importing a lot of now machinery to build it. So if the price of the shilling also went up so much, it will affect our economy. So the key, the password, the bottom line,
stability.
Is stability.
Okay.
Yep.
Very interesting. Let's move on now to Trump's tariffs.
Yes, Mr. Trump has come with the old economics of tariffs. This is a very old economics. Before the World War II, countries used to engage in tariff wars. The average tariff rates in 1913 were as follows: France 21%, Germany 20%, Italy 18%, Japan 30%, Sweden 20%, USA 44%. Now, USA has always loved tariffs. It had the highest average tariff rate on manufactured products in the 1913. Then, as a result of this, the world trade used to be affected. And countries sat down and created what they called the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. This was in 1947, after World War II. That GATT is what became World Trade Organization in 1994, where over 153 countries sat and agreed in Geneva that we should reduce these tariffs to allow free movement of goods, and as well as non-tariff barriers. In other words, we should remove trade barriers. And the world, I want to tell you, Judith, became a better place, because the average tariff until Trump came globally has been 4%. 4%. All of those developed countries I've mentioned have had a tariff of 4% average. Japan, I think, was the lowest, around 3.8%. Now, Mr. Trump ran his campaign on America First and has brought tariff debate back. He has imposed these tariffs on a number of countries. Whoever has ever sat in an average class of economics knows that tariffs are not good for trade, because they tend to raise the cost of living. Americans are going to be the first victims because the price of goods and services in the US is going to go up. Mm-hmm. But America, being the largest economy in the world, we shouldn't be there thinking that these Americans are going to be affected. There is always a ripple effect, a contagion effect on other economies across the world, because the average price cost of manufactured products is likely to go up. Mm-hmm. Also, countries are likely to engage in a tariff war, trade wars, where they will also raise tariffs. China has already done that, I think, and a couple of other countries. So this is not very good economics, because globalization has been helping us to shift the entire world towards integration and interdependence within the global economy. Now we are likely to get this globalization reversed, because the US is a big player in the global economy. But I'm not very much worried, because we have reached a point where it will be very difficult for the world to get back to those days of outright trade war. Mm-hmm. Uganda, they imposed 10% on us, like so many other African countries, mm-hmm. except I think Lesotho, Madagascar, Mauritius, and a few others, which have been, I think, also imposing some tariffs on the US products. You know, Trump said it is tit for tat, but that's not good economics. Good economics is about negotiations where you are not having good partners. So I hope this will not really bring a new problem, because we have had a number of global challenges, from COVID, then the Russian war with Ukraine, then we have had this other war in Israel, between Israel and Palestine, then we have had the Europeans. Before that there was Brexit, which also brought some complications, among others. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be in a real situation where, as a manager of an economy, you are facing a global environment which is uncertain. You saw how the stock markets
plunged,
have all gone down. But I think that was just a shock, a smaller shock, and they will recover. But we have some interesting 4 years.
Very clearly. So very interesting. We're about to open the phone lines, but before we do that, I'm just going to read a few comments or questions that have come through on my phone. There is a concern here for you, Mr. Gobi. 2024-25 has also been the RAPEX year, which I had talked about. It had its hits and misses. Also, where the dividends from PDM, President Museveni has been on tours across the country, but in many areas there are reports of mismanagement, increased poverty, embezzlement, bribery, wastage of resources, which have marred a seemingly good plan. Also, in this financial year, we've seen some efforts to tackle corruption amongst public officials. We've seen some arrests and prosecutions in this area, but we've seen less efforts in recovering back the stolen monies or property. And this is where the elephant in the room is, in taming theft of public resources. There's also a concern that this rosy picture painted by Mr. Gobi could be aided or sabotaged by the politics we are entering into. You know, some funds could be utilized to score political milestones or could be abused in that regard. We have investments done, for example, UTEL. That's the former UTL, which was rebranded nearly 2 years ago to UTEL, where government put in about 300 billion shillings in 2003. Where are the results, or where are the dividends? The Uganda National Airlines, which operates Company Limited, which operates Uganda Airlines, although it has reduced its loss position according to 2003-2004, it is still in a bad situation. We are entering into the NDP4 with the Vision 2040, with the construction of the oil refinery, how much are we back as a country in the first 15 years? Also, how much local content is provided for Ugandans in terms of jobs? A lot. We've not yet opened the phone lines, guys, so just bear with me a little bit. Another question coming in from Mr. Joseph Ochieno. Mr. Gobi is a very clever guy, and many people had huge expectations of him. Why has he failed to restrain apparent theft through supplementary budget? Has he failed, or does he fear the mafia? Then from also another one from Ivan Masawi says, the investment holidays, I want to understand them well, and what are the support they will offer, they, meaning governments, will offer local investors on capacity building. Very quickly now, let me read out the phone lines. 0393 933 933. 0393262933, 0393262934, 0393266933, 0701933934, or 0751933900. We have a caller already.
Good morning, Auntie. Good morning, expert. Mr. Gobi.
Hello.
Yes, Juma calling from Busoga.
Yes, Juma. Juma, your line is not clear. Your line is not clear, Juma.
I think I'm now audible now.
A little bit, but still not very clear.
Okay, let me go.
Okay, you can just call us back later. I think we can, when you find a stable position, please call us back. Let's get another caller. Hello? Okay, Mr. Gobi, perhaps you could just respond to those issues that came through.
There are so many, I don't know.
Many.
You need to
get me one
by one and I answer them.
Let me start. The first one is we are entering into the NDP4 with a vision still on Vision 2040. Now, with the construction of the oil refinery, how much are we back as a country in the first 15 years? I've not understood this question very well.
The oil has a very good return on investment, if that's what he's asking.
Okay, I think so.
I think that's what he's asking. It is going to create a GDP of about $8.5 billion per annum. And if you can calculate that by about 25 years, the refinery will be in place. You can see the amount of wealth you are creating. So it has a very good return on investment.
Then how much local content is provided for Ugandans in terms of jobs?
The agreement, Ugandan oil, we learned lessons from those who have failed. Ugandan oil has been built the frameworks on understanding that local content is key. Right now in the ECOP, we are talking of over 48% local content. When you look at this refinery also, we are leaving it at almost half of the content should be local.
Okay. The other concern, of course, was about that the rosy picture you're painting could be aided or sabotaged by the politics we're entering into. Yes, we're entering this budget that we're going into comes also as we're going into political season, a hotly contested one, most likely. So there are those concerns that some funds could be used to score political milestones, could be also abused or for political reasons. How do you respond to that?
I really encourage Ugandans, we are the ones who politic and so on. I encourage Ugandans to understand that we don't eat politics, we eat economics. So they better be the ones to, from all levels, to ensure that they reduce the politicking. I know this is a political season, the excitement is already out, everybody is excited, everybody wants to be a leader, at least of a village or a sub-county or a district or parliament or president and so on. But at the end of the day, after these few months, we are going to be excited. We shall be back to normal programming. And what do we need? Money. We need money. We need food. We need wealth. And for me, I'm focused on how do we keep budget discipline in areas of ATM and enablers.
Okay.
And that's where the budget will be.
The other is about investments in our state enterprises. UTEL, which is former UTL, 300 billion shillings was invested in it about 2023. But what are the results? Also, Uganda Airlines, what dividends are we reaping from these kinds of investments?
This is actually typical of Ugandans. That's why we fail to do business. We think that you invest today and you get money tomorrow. That's a big, big mistake. When we are investing, we invest longer term. We are in for long haul. So some of these investments, and I encourage people to really start thinking like economists, not accountants all the time. Accountants want certain things done quickly. I always get surprised when I hear that, Uganda Airlines made losses. Losses how? How would a company which has just been reinstated, it is not, we haven't even finished the investment phase. We are just buying the aircrafts. They have now only 6 aircrafts. The feasibility study showed that they must have other 4 mid-range aircrafts and about 4 air cargo, the cargo aircraft.
That brings it to 14.
Yes. And then invest in ground handling, in the anchor, in infrastructure, in other words. Also invest in a hotel, because airlines work as an ecosystem with the other things. All those things are not in play. And somebody is talking of profits. How will you earn profits? We are in investment phase. I really don't like sometimes
for clarity.
We are like unserious people.
I know it may sound like people aren't serious, but also it always comes from a point of not having access to this information. If you could just give us clarity, how long is the investment period for Uganda Airlines?
The investment period will go on for the next 8 years.
Okay.
That's when we should be able to really say, now, Uganda Airlines, we have invested, we need to pay back this money, and the payback period can be there. But fundamentally, we need also to realize airlines, on top of being outright business entities, they are also facilitators, enablers of business, because they are enablers of tourism, of exports, and so on and so forth.
Okay, I think we have a caller. Yes.
Yes. Good morning, Ati.
Good morning.
Juma is back.
Juma is back, but I can't even hear Juma completely now.
Even now, you cannot hear.
Hello? Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, you're clear.
We call upon the efficiency of the government to the citizen.
What did you say?
We need transparency by the government officials, accountability, service delivery, and we fight corruption. And then we shall develop. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juma. Very clear. Serve transparency. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, please.
KFM.
Yes, good morning.
I thank the Honorable Minister, Ramadan.
The PSST, yes.
Yeah, he likes debate. I think because he was a teacher, he doesn't fear debate. He's the first piece to be appearing on live shows. Thank you very much. But
May I know who I'm talking to?
Sam Kaizi.
Yes, Sam.
I want to assure him the kind of leadership I see. You'll never make profits in Uganda Airlines, whatever you do. The way we hear is headed by a senior 6 dropout. If you are not denied that. Remember in the parliament when
it's not true that she's a senior 6 dropout. I think that information was clarified. It was clarified. I think let's also be fair.
I mean in parliament when that challenge came up, there was no clarification to the public.
Yeah.
Now, even the indiscipline and the way they do things, and so many airlines are not making profit. So I don't want him to put hope in Ugandans that venture will ever make profit. So we support it, much as it doesn't make profit, for the national self-esteem and even reliance as we grow. But 8 years, they expect that thing to make profit. That's a dream.
Thank you for your feedback, Sam. Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Your name, please?
talking to Ekode.
Ekode, yes, Michael.
Yes. And I want to, first of all, thank our guest, Dr. Ngozi, for the insight of the economy. You still have the economy which works, and it's working somehow. Now, I have two concerns. One,
yes,
it's about the government projects which come on every financial year. I transported the Atiak sugar factory. The government has always released every year to finance this factory. But here it's not, because of the impact, it's not there yet. And every year, we are bringing the budget to finance it. So is he bothered? Two, about our Kampala. You know, as government, for us to look at the person who's releasing money, I don't think everyone who comes on your table that want the money for this, you just release. Do you also put initiative to know the value of the money you're raising, either for the, now the city itself is a construction site. Floods are everywhere. Little rain is flooded. As a Ramadan, do you take concern before you release the money? Do you also take initiative on the ground so that why are we using this money for this project? Thanks for that, show.
Thank you. So the other questions is...
good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is Sam.
Who? I can't hear you.
Sam.
Sam. Okay, yes, Sam.
I think the other caller was just biased. I think I also believe Zambia will make up of...
Sam, I'm sorry, we can't hear you so well. I don't know what the problem is. You could just call us again, please. Hello? Do we have any more callers on the line? Well, if we don't have, I think maybe just give us a few more minutes. Just let Mr. Gobi respond. But there was also this concern. Mr. Gobi is a clever guy. Many people had huge expectations of him. Why has he failed to restrain apparent theft through supplementary budget? Has he failed, or does he fear the mafia? Maybe you start with that.
Number one, it's a wrong assumption that supplementary budgets which we have issued are for stealing, for people to steal. No. Supplementary budgets have been coming in because of three key reasons, and I explained them here some time back. Number one was under budgeting for critical obligations of the state because of limited fiscal space. Sometimes by the time we finish the budget, like now, we are budgeting, we are improving every year. But where we are coming from because of this COVID-19 and its impact, we had a limited fiscal space to budget for certain key activities. That's number one. So some of these have ended up in supplementary, but if we had enough fiscal space and we provided money at the budgeting time, they would have been catered for. But two, also, there were those entities which were engaging in budgeting discipline. They put money in areas which are not so critical, and they leave out the critical areas. We have been monitoring, and now we are treating that disease. Well knowing that when I come later and I say I don't have money for this item, I can't, for example, purchase medicine. Or every Ugandan will say, that's a very important thing. We need to give him a supplementary. We have been monitoring that. Then, number three, and that's why the supplementary is in the law, unforeseen eventualities, unforeseen activities. Yeah, someone has died. You can't put in the budget that those who will die, this is the budget for them which will bury them, the public officers. Or that when floods occur or a landslide occurs in Elgon, then we shall, this is the budget for them. Like some of the my bosses in the disaster management have been saying, give us more money for disaster management. I can't budget for disaster like that. There is contingencies fund, which is a percentage of the budget, but once it is used up, because maybe the disasters were much more than what we had anticipated, then I have to present a supplementary budget. So for those things which were not foreseen at the time of budgeting, and they are now unavoidable. You must. But to assume that these budgets are for stealing, that has been as a result of politics, bad politics. There are some politicians in Uganda who have built a career by just bad-mouthing everything government does. They reduce it to their politics by saying, oh, now this money is for stealing, oh, this and that. And I've heard that in Parliament they are having immunity, but some of them have even gone out of Parliament, because in Parliament, why they have immunity, some public or other people are there to respond to them, but they have now gone out to radios, to places like those areas where they go to attend functions, and they also are really lying to Ugandans in this format. I think this is something which the leaders can sort out from a technical area, but it doesn't do good for Uganda to hear that. So it's not true that these supplementaries are for stealing. They are for really those areas which I've mentioned, which couldn't be anticipated at the time of budgeting, or which were under budgeted because of the tight fiscal space we had. Now, when someone was talking of Uganda Airlines, that it can never be profitable, I've told you most of these investments, even Atiaka Sugar, somebody has commented about Atiaka Sugar.
I think there are also concerns about Lubowa,
yes,
Tugume's coffee factory in Tungamo. These are all investments that Ugandans are questioning.
Today, Ugandans are questioning these. In the past, Judith, before you were on radio, when perhaps you were in school, they were questioning others. Should I tell you others they were questioning?
I think
government was investing in a number of things. When government was investing in quality chemicals, supporting quality chemicals to grow, giving them support, off-take agreements and some money and tax waivers. When the government was supporting the investors like James Murwana to grow the battery industry, when government was supporting a number of other Ugandans were making some similar noise. Today, when those companies went out of the investment phase and they started to make money, like now the quality chemicals has saved Uganda of this challenge of HIV/AIDS. They produce HIV medicines. They are producing anti-malarial medicines. Now there is no noise there, and those are private entities. Purely, I don't want even to talk about them. But we have, as government in the past, done similar ventures. Even these sugar factories you see, they also got support when they were there in the past. This sugar you are drinking was supported industrial policies like that.
So just
support them.
Again, just for clarity, for how many years are we still going to keep investing in TIAC?
Well,
because at least you gave us
they are still
an understanding of what's happening with Uganda Airlines, 8 more years. So could we also know how many more years?
I will work out these numbers and I tell you, but I want to tell you we are still in the investment phase of most of this. If we had a lot of money, we would have gotten all of the money at once and we allocate it in the Parliament and give it to them. Okay? But we said let us phase. So we are investing them in a phased manner. Year 1, we shall give you this. Year 2, we shall give you that. So they are phased, and they are still with us. That Lubowa Hospital you hear was approved in Parliament as an investment, I think in 2019 or 2018 there, around there. I'm not certain of the year. And the bulk of the money was supposed now to be taken back to Parliament for appropriation every year. They approved the hospital should be built, worth some millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. But you see, in Uganda, we are not used to these big things. So when we see them, we think we are wasting money. One time, I heard people were saying that Rubo hospital will never come up. And it has become a very favorite project to attack by opposition politicians. Now the hospital is coming up very soon. When it is done, when it is finished, and it is now treating Ugandans, I hope they will now realize how important, and I think they will apologize to government for making this investment. When you pass on Entebbe Road there, what do you see now? But this tendency of bad-mouthing things, they made it even so difficult for that hospital to get money from financial institutions. By now, we would have finished that hospital. But when you are bad-mouthing it, they are stealing money. The banks are listening. Also, they're saying, now this one is being attacked.
It's a risk investment.
Will our money be safe? Yeah, this is a risky one. You have brought reputational risk. Then when it fails, you say, you see, they have failed. But you are responsible for this failure. Atiaka Sugar. Every day they are talking about Atiaka Sugar. When finally that factory transforms that northern Uganda, because it's more than a factory, we are investing in the farms. We brought modern irrigation equipment. Now go there and you see the sugar farm which has been set up. But thousands of acres
Mr. Gobi,
of sugar under irrigation. But people are bad-mouthing. We are now investing in that irrigation system from the Nile. So it's really very, very un-Ugandan.
I think we have a caller. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, please.
The PSSC is talking about bad-mouthing. Member of Parliament went to visit that hospital.
Mm-hmm.
They were denied access. Is that transparency?
Mm-hmm.
Be transparent. You're saying bad-mouthing, everything. Now, if we study the expenditure, the original plan, how much they are putting, can they rhyme? Can they form the picture? No, it has been enormous after pressure. That pressure is working. It is positive criticism. Accept. You're not transparent enough.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, I'm told we need to take a break, I think. Let's take a break. Welcome back from the break. It is 10:51 a.m. and just a few minutes for us to actually leave the show. Yes, are we taking a call? No, we're not. Okay, so Mr. Gobi, there was a question here from Ivan Masawi. Says he wants to know more about the investment holidays and what other support government will offer local investors on capacity building. I don't know if you have a response to that.
Of course, local investors like foreign investors have got opportunities to enjoy certain incentives, number one. But for you to enjoy these incentives, you need to have particular levels of capacity to utilize the incentives. And under UIA, but also Enterprise Uganda, we are supporting what we call BDS, Business Development Services. We have invested heavily in Enterprise Uganda to support our local investors to build the capacity in terms of running governance, corporate governance, because it's one major weakness we are having in Uganda. Even if it is a family business or a partnership, you need to have some level of corporate governance you exercise to separate ownership from control and management. The way you manage your stakeholders, the way you manage the financials. Sometimes it fails us in Uganda. But there are certain things we take for granted. So this government, we are aware and we are supporting them. Even UDB, to get money now from UDB, it comes with as a package. It comes with the BDS. We are doing this to support our local partners or investors. But I wanted the Ugandans to know that by and large, we are not just going to develop Uganda as Ugandans. we need to get partners. The best way for you to succeed in business is partnership. Partner with the people who know it better. Because in Uganda we are lacking two key things. We are lacking capital, but also we are lacking know-how of doing certain businesses. So you better partner. This is what successful also businessmen here have done. Those big people you see in Kampala here and other parts of the country who are doing well, Uganda check, they have good partners or at least good managers whom they have gotten from elsewhere. So we need to work on that.
Okay. Lastly, as the PSST and the Ministry of Finance, when you sit in your boardrooms, do you really have a sincere and candid conversation about the growing cost of public administration? Can't you really advise other members of the executive, parliament, and more especially the NRM caucus about this?
The public administration has grown because also Uganda is growing. The country has grown in terms of the population and the politics. And these are political kind of decisions you must take. Like the size of parliament has been on the mouth of everybody. You need as Ugandans to sit and take a decision. Call out a referendum and tell government, tell the leaders in power on what they should do. For me, one time we were having a conversation internally and I said, maybe these leaders have to call out a referendum and ask Ugandans, should we have one MP per district, a man, and one MP per district, a woman, so that you have two MPs per district, a man and a woman? And let Ugandans answer yes or no. Leave us alone, and then we bury that debate. But this tendency of everybody talking helplessly is not very, very helpful. Of course, the cost has gone up in terms of the running of government, but the public service is not very large. Actually, we have about 30% of the public service not filled. It's vacant, and you can see it in the kind of work we do. You people, I think when you're out there and having an ethic view of government, you don't know what's happening there. We wake up at 5 a.m., we go home at 9 p.m., some of us. Why? Because there is a lot of work out there to be done, and we have relatively fewer numbers than we would have loved to have, but we are saving government money by not filling all these vacancies. As you remember, we issued a circular freezing new recruitment in the government because we are looking at how do we manage the cost. So Ugandans need to know that we are really also thinking about all of this.
Stephen has reminded me that we have 1 minute left.
So it's everyone's role to play.
There's also a question here. As you conclude, of course, for an average Ugandan listening, you've talked about the macroeconomics and so on. For an average Ugandan out there, what would be your message on, say, what this person should look out for in order to tap into the market, into the money market, how to increase your income as an individual, as a household at the end of the calendar year or the financial year, so that when you look back as a person, you'll say, yes, it has been a worthwhile year, and Uganda is a good place to live in.
My message always, Judith, is one. As Ugandans, we need to reduce looking at everything as a problem. We are so problem-oriented. Challenge, problem. We need to start looking at opportunities around us. I really feel that we are over-emphasizing challenges and problems and risks, and we forget to see actually the opportunities which are very near us, and they all go by the wind. For me, that's what the message, especially to younger people. I'm a very active member in social media. I watch people on X, Facebook, nowadays the new one, TikTok. And actually on TikTok there is some bit of life there. You see younger people enjoying themselves a bit. But I would want people to start looking for opportunities as opposed to problems all the time.
Thank you very much. It is actually time for us to leave the studio and say goodbye. But thank you very much, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, the PSST Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. We've been having an insightful conversation looking into the government strategy for the next financial year, 2025-2026, especially in regard to the budget that the government has, that finance has presented, which is about 71.9 trillion shillings. We're not just going to have a one-off discussion. We hope to continue with another conversation on this budget. Perhaps you'll join us next time, but if not, we'll still have other people to have this conversation. Thank you very much, Mr. Gobi, for making time.
Always a pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Yes, and to you who's been listening and calling in, thank you. This is VPN. Bye.